She was not a queen seated upon a throne, nor a warrior clad in armor, yet beneath the shade of a simple palm tree she carried the weight of a nation. In a time when iron chariots thundered across the plains and fear settled over Israel like a dark cloud, deliverance did not begin with swords or shields, but with the steady voice of a woman who listened for God. When oppression tightened its grip and hope seemed to fade from the hills of Israel, the Lord raised up Deborah, a prophetess, a judge, a mother in Israel, whose faith would stir an army and whose obedience would change history. This is the story of courage in the face of overwhelming power, of reluctant leaders and unexpected heroes, and of a victory in which the honor would belong to a woman. Once again, the people of Israel had turned away. After Ehud, their former deliverer, died, the familiar pattern returned. Peace led to comfort, comfort to compromise, and compromise to idolatry. They abandoned the Lord who had rescued them from Egypt and bowed instead to the gods of the land, to Baal, whom they believed controlled the storms, and to Asherah, whom they trusted for fertility and prosperity. In seeking security from false gods, they forfeited the protection of the true one. So the Lord allowed them to feel the consequences of their rebellion. He gave them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who ruled from the fortified city of Hazor in the north. Hazor was no small outpost. It was a center of power, heavily defended and strategically placed. Jabin's commander was Sisera, a hardened military leader whose strength lay in a fearsome advantage: 900 iron chariots. In the ancient world, such chariots were instruments of terror, swift, cutting through infantry, dominating open terrain. Against them, farmers and shepherds stood little chance. For 20 years, Israel endured harsh oppression. Villages were abandoned. Trade routes became unsafe. Fear crept into daily life. Yet even in those dark decades, a remnant cried out to the Lord. Their prayers rose from hidden places, from weary homes and quiet hillsides, pleading for mercy. In the hill country of Ephraim, between Ramah and Bethel, there lived a woman named Deborah. She was a prophetess, one who spoke the word of the Lord, and she served as judge over Israel. Beneath a palm tree that came to bear her name, she settled disputes and offered counsel. Men and women alike sought her wisdom. Her authority did not rest in force of personality or physical might, but in her clear devotion to God. She heard his voice, and she spoke it faithfully. At a decisive moment, the word of the Lord came to Deborah with a command. She sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali. When he stood before her, she delivered God's instruction plainly. He was to gather 10,000 men from the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun and lead them to Mount Tabor. There the Lord would draw Sisera and his chariots to the Kishon River and deliver them into Barak's hand. It was a bold directive. To confront an army equipped with iron chariots was no small task. Barak understood the danger. The plains favored Sisera. The chariots would have room to maneuver and devastate foot soldiers. Faced with this command, Barak responded with hesitation. "If you go with me, I will go. But if you do not go with me, I will not go." Whether his words revealed doubt or deep reliance on Deborah's prophetic guidance, one thing was clear. He did not want to proceed without her. Deborah agreed to accompany him, but she added a solemn word. The honor of defeating Sisera would not be his, for the Lord would hand Sisera over to a woman. In a culture where victory over an enemy commander brought great prestige, this prophecy must have sounded unusual. Yet Barak accepted it. Obedience mattered more than acclaim. Messengers went out across the northern tribes. From hills and fields men responded. 10,000 gathered at Mount Tabor, a prominent rise overlooking the surrounding valleys. From its slopes they could see the terrain below, the very ground where chariots would normally reign supreme. Deborah stood with Barak as they watched for the enemy. News of Israel's mobilization reached Sisera. Confident in his superiority, he assembled his forces and rolled out his 900 iron chariots toward the Kishon River. The rumble of wheels and the pounding of hooves echoed across the plain. Dust filled the air as the Canaanite army advanced. Then came the moment. From the heights of Mount Tabor, Deborah declared, "Up, for this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hand. Has not the Lord gone out before you?" With that assurance, Barak led his men down the mountain into battle. What followed was not the predictable triumph of iron over infantry. According to the ancient song recorded in Judges 5, the heavens themselves joined the fight. Storm clouds gathered, rain fell upon the battlefield. The once dry ground turned to mud. The Kishon River swelled and overflowed. The mighty chariots designed for speed and dominance became trapped in the mire. Wheels bogged down, horses faltered. Chaos spread through Sisera's ranks. The very weapons that had terrorized Israel for 2 decades were rendered useless. As confusion overtook the Canaanite army, Israel pressed forward. The Lord threw Sisera's forces into disarray, and what had seemed invincible crumbled. The battle belonged not to superior strategy or strength, but to divine intervention. Seeing defeat, Sisera abandoned his chariot and fled on foot. He ran toward the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite. The Kenites had maintained peaceful relations with Jabin, and Sisera assumed he would find refuge there. Jael met him at the entrance and welcomed him inside. She covered him with a blanket and gave him milk to drink. Exhausted and believing himself safe, Sisera lay down to rest, asking her to keep watch and deny his presence to any who might come. When he had fallen into deep sleep, Jael acted. In the nomadic life of her people, women were skilled at pitching tents. She took a tent peg and a hammer, ordinary tools in her hands, and approached the sleeping commander. With a decisive strike, she drove the peg through his temple and into the ground. Sisera's life ended there, not on a battlefield amid clashing swords, but in the quiet of a tent. Soon after, Barak arrived in pursuit. Jael went out to meet him and said, "Come, I will show you the man you are seeking." Inside, he saw Sisera lying dead. Deborah's prophecy had been fulfilled. The honor of defeating the enemy's commander had gone to a woman. In the days that followed, Israel grew stronger against Jabin until his rule was finally broken. To commemorate the victory, Deborah and Barak sang a song, a triumphant hymn celebrating those who answered the call and praising Jael as most blessed among women. Afterward, the land enjoyed peace for 40 years. This account is more than a tale of ancient warfare. It reveals a God who uses unlikely instruments to accomplish his purposes. Deborah, a woman in a male-dominated society, led with wisdom and courage. Barak, though hesitant, stepped forward in obedience. Jael, armed only with household tools, became the final agent of deliverance. None relied on conventional power. All relied on the Lord. The same truth echoes today. Our adversaries may not ride iron chariots, but fear, doubt, and cultural pressures still loom large. Like Deborah, we are called to listen for God's voice and speak it boldly. Like Barak, we are invited to step forward even when the outcome is uncertain. Like Jael, we may find that the ordinary tools in our hands are sufficient when placed in God's service. The Lord who fought for Israel still moves in the affairs of his people. He overturns expectations, humbles the proud, and grants victory in ways that defy human wisdom. The question remains for each of us. When he says, "Go," will we trust him enough to move? Your faith, steady and obedient, may become the very means through which God brings hope and deliverance to those around you.